Hi there, and welcome to this program of the University of Arkansas Business and Technology Development Center. We are so pleased to be able to bring you these educational tools to help support small businesses. If you don't know about the Small Business Development Center, it's a one-stop shop for startups and existing small businesses. We are associated with the University of Arkansas and affiliated with the statewide ASBTDC and SBA. We are also a part of a national network of more than 1,000 small business centers. Locally, we offer complimentary one-on-one consulting and programming that is relevant for topics that business owners need today. If you're not already a client, we encourage you to visit us at sbtdc.uark.edu and click Get a Consultation. Or you can email us at sbdc.uark.edu. You can also have access to the QR code on your screen for more information. My name is Chris Case. And in 1993, I began my journey helping businesses, and especially the most important part of a business, the people. I've accomplished this through consulting, training, and coaching. But my number one focus has always been the same. You've got to hire the right person, make sure they're in the right seat, and then make sure that you give them the tools to succeed. So in order to do that, you've got to understand why people act the way they do. And a lot of times it boils down to behavior. Behavior is the foundation of everything that we do. How we lead, how we communicate, how we build relationships. Behavior is actually a mirror in which everyone displays his own image. So in order to understand that, and in order to understand your own behavior, you've got to take an assessment and then kind of walk through the information. So what I want to cover in this video today is I want to talk a little bit about the DISC assessment. There are a lot of different assessments out there that you have access to. I use the DISC assessment because it's easy and it kind of breaks it down into 4 different behavioral styles. Now, we will have a primary style and some of us will have a secondary style, but we are a combination of all 4. So let me just give you the big picture. We've got the 4 different styles. We've got the dominant style, the influential style, the steadiness style, and the conscientious style. Now, some of these, they all have differences, but some of these also have similarities. For example, the dominant and the influence. Those 2 styles, the similarities are they're active, they like a lot going on, and they're fast-paced. Then you got the conscientious and the steadiness. Their similarities is they're a little bit more slower-paced and more methodical. On the other hand, you've got the left-hand side, the dominance and the conscientious. They're focused on tasks, results, getting stuff done. On the right, you've got the influential and the steadiness, and they're focused on people and relationships. Now, if you have not already taken the DISC assessment, there's a free assessment out there for you to take, and you can either pause this video at this point or take it after. But you go to www.123test.com, and then you'll click on Find Your Test. And then in the search box, go ahead and type in personality, and you'll see that you've got an offer for a free DISC assessment, and you can go ahead and take that. When you do take this assessment, I want you to really focus on 2 different pages. The first page is page 3. That's going to be an indicator of which quadrant you land in. So for example, on this one, this individual took the assessment and they land in the D. That's where their black circle is. But you'll notice they also land closer to the C. So if I was looking at this, I would say this individual has a primary style of D and probably a secondary style of C. Now, they still do have I and S in them, but those are going to be their dominant styles. Page 5 is the next page I want you to take a look at because it's going to color code every part of the diagram. So for this example, this individual has a lot of D in them. Their secondary style, as you can see, is C, conscientious, but they still have the influential and the steadiness in there too. Because remember, I said you're a combination of all 4. So don't just say if I'm a strong D or a strong I, then that's where I land. You have a little bit of everything in you. We all do. So let's break this down a little bit more by each style. The first one is the dominant style. At the end of the day, this style is all about results. That's all they want at the end of the day. So their behavior tends to kind of lead toward that throughout the day. They're very fast-paced. They're task-oriented. They're very confident and ambitious. They're ones that can make decisions when no one else has to because, again, at the end of the day, it's all about results. They love solving problems. They love challenges. So if you're leading a D and you give them a challenge or a task that's maybe a little bit harder, or maybe it's new to everybody, that's what's going to motivate that group of people. They've got a strong desire to win, and they like to look at the big picture. One thing about the D's that you've got to remember is because they're fast paced in everything, their texts, their emails, their phone calls, you can't take offense to it and think that they're not thinking of you or what you're going through. At the end of the day, they're thinking about the bottom line. 3 tips to communicate with a D. You can't get emotional. They don't like emotion. They'll probably shut it off the minute you walk in their office. Be quick and brief. Like I said earlier, everything they do is quick. They want your emails to be quick, as well as they'll answer your emails with a yes or a no. They want your phone calls to be quick, your visits to the office to be quick. Make sure, and this is the most important one, if you have a problem or a situation that you need to take to a D, make sure that you take solutions. 1 or 2 or 3 would be ideal. They want to make sure that you're coming in and not just bringing an emotional problem just to waste their time, that you're coming in with a problem or a situation and a solution so you can get to an end result. Then you have the influential. This group of people, remember, they're all about relationships and people. To sum this group up, they're still fast-paced, they still like to multitask, but they're really focused on the people side of everything. They're very optimistic, they're positive, the glass is half full. They really will be helpful with any situation that comes along because they're great listeners. They're always available and give their time very freely. They love working on teams. This is probably not a group of people that you want to put isolated down the hall in front of a desk all by themselves. They love working on teams and they thrive on teams. They're great at inspiring others and networking. They love the people part of it, so they're probably the best networkers of your company and your business. And they give feedback positively. So they uplift situations and bring a little bit of humor or fun to it. They're, again, the group of people that out of every one of them, they're more focused on people and relationships and making people happy than the other groups. The tips for the I's. You've got to have a friendly approach. Even if you're going to talk to them about something serious, the initial approach has got to be friendly. They don't like to be scolded or disciplined in public. You'll lose them immediately. Their motivation will plummet if you do something like that. And something as simple as a thank you to this group of people is huge. They're your cheerleaders of your business. And when they're happy, they spread that throughout your business. So you want to make sure that they feel appreciated. And a simple thank you is really all they need, and they will thrive. Then you have the steadiness. This group of people at the end of the day is all about status quo. They want to go to work, they want to get their job done, and they want to go home without any drama. They're a little bit more slower paced because they're focused on people and they're focused on teamwork. They're consistent and predictable. This is the group that are loyal. They're going to be in jobs for a long time. They'll be there on time. They'll leave on time. They're just going to be more dependable and loyal than any other group. That's why this group is really important to identify. They're probably the hardest group to identify, but this is the group that you really need to make sure that you know who they are. Because again, since they are at jobs and businesses for a long time, people have learned to respect them. They've earned a lot of credibility. So if they're happy, everybody's happy. Even though it's a quiet happy, everybody senses that and is happy. They're motivated by the status quo. They're great listeners. They, again, like teams, but they're going to be the quiet ones. They're going to be the ones sitting in meetings and in situations. They won't say a whole lot because they're going to take everything in. They're going to think about it. They won't make quick decisions. They won't offer feedback because they want to take it and think about it before they come back with a decision or an idea. They're very good at doing that if you let them and give them the time to do it. Their one fear is loss of stability or change. I think one of the best things for this group of people, even though change is hard for them, if you give them an update or tell them beforehand, give them a feedback for the change that you're doing and why you're doing it, they're going to be on board. And like I said earlier, this is the group that has a lot of credibility. So when they're on board, everybody else will naturally be on board too. Tips for this group of people. You've got to be transparent. You can build up your relationship with them for years and years and years. And the minute that you're not transparent is the minute that relationship evaporates. So you've got to make sure you're forthcoming and you're transparent with this group. Loyalty is key to them. Again, this is a group of people that if they're going to tell you something, they don't want you to go and tell somebody else. That will break the relationship immediately. And don't rush ideas or decisions. One of the best things you can do is let this group of people sit back and think about it. They're going to listen to everybody else in the room. They're going to take in all the information. Then they'll take it home and think about it. And when they come back, they're going to give a solid answer to your decision or a solid feedback. So just kind of let this group of people kind of transpire and grab that information like they need to in their own way. Then you have the conscientious group. This is the group that's all about accuracy. Their brain actually works, I think, different than the rest of ours because it's very analytical. It's they're paying attention to details and accuracy and correctness. They're more slower paced because, again, they're gathering all the hard data. They're going to gather the statistics and the numbers and put it in an Excel spreadsheet. So they're going to be a little bit more slower paced. They're task oriented. They're thorough, they're diplomatic, they like rules and regulations, and they want you to follow them and like them too. There's no rule or regulation that's been put in place for no reason. So they'll follow them. They're black and white. They need you to be black and white with them. They're analytical and attention to detail. They're motivated by correctness. I think one of the quickest ways that you can lose credibility with this group of individuals is if you turn in something to them that's not correct. Immediately your credibility will plummet. They expect you to look at information a couple times before you do turn that in. They will be seen as aloof. This is, I think, the biggest thing about this group of individuals. Like I said, they're going to come to work. They're going to crunch the data. They're probably not going to join you for lunch because, again, they're busy crunching the data to make sure it's accurate. And then they're going to go home at the end of the day. So don't think that they're being aloof or they don't want to be part of the fun in the group. They're not. Their brains are focused on getting the accurate information and getting it correct at the end of the day. They're overly critical of not only others, but especially of themselves. So again, it's going to be one of those groups of people. They're professional, they're businesslike, they come across as direct and will let you know when a mistake has been made. They fear criticism of their work. The best 3 tips for this group of people is you've got to be professional. Just like the D's, they don't want a lot of emotion or a lot of bickering going on. They also don't want to hear a lot about your weekend because when they come to work to crunch that information and to make sure to get that done. When they come to work, their head is all in the game of those numbers and statistics. And be accurate. That's, again, one of the most important things that they expect from you and they expect from themselves as well. So communication and conflict. Really, this is really boiling it down to really a couple just simple words. For example, the dominant style. Like I said earlier, they want you to be direct and brief and to the point. But the bottom line is they want to know the what. They want to know what is the deadline. What is the project? If you answer the what for that individual, they're going to be able to communicate better with you. They'll have a better understanding of what's expected and conflict will not be as prevalent. Then you have the I's. Again, they're very favorable. They're friendly. They love to be part of the action. They want to know the who. So you've got to remember, who is the client asking for this? Who will be on your team? If you answer the who for them, they're going to be able to be part of that team and they're going to strive because, again, they like to be part of a group of people that are getting a job done. So if you can answer the who, that's going to be key for their success. And then you've got the steadiness. At the end of the day, they want to know the how. Remember when I said that they don't like change because they don't understand the how? If you communicate the how is this going to work? How is this going to affect you? How is this going to affect your job and your team? Then they'll be on board. They're going to take a little bit extra time to get on board, but if you can explain the how to them, they will get on board. And then the conscientious. They're the why group. They get a really hard rap for this because if you ask them to do something, they're going to ask why. And then you think you explain why, and they'll ask why again. they've got the analytical brains that have got to be connecting the dots. And so if you answer the why for them, they're going to be on board, but they will ask a lot more questions than the other three groups. They're not trying to be difficult. They're just trying to make sure that it makes sense to them in order to get on board. And what I want you to do is I always like to end with an exercise or kind of a reflection slide. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to think of three people that you work very closely with. They can be people either you get along with, maybe you don't work with them a whole lot, but three people that come to your mind that you might think that you need to figure out a little bit. And then what you're going to do is I want you to ask two questions. First of all, is that individual fast-paced and direct? Or are they slower paced and indirect? When you land them in one of those two groups, then you need to ask just one more question. Are they focused on tasks or are they focused on people? So if they're direct and outgoing and fast paced and focused on tasks, they're going to be a D. If they're outgoing, direct, fast paced, and focused on people, they're going to be an I. If they're slower paced and they're focused on people, they're going to be an S. If they're more slower paced and indirect, they're going to be focused on they're going to be C's if they're more focused on the tasks. So again, think about those three people and try to put them in one of these buckets. If you've got some questions, I've got some more little tidbits down there for you to be able to put them in that bucket. But once you put them in that bucket, then what I want you to do is I want you to write down 2 to 3 things that you think you can do to better your relationships. Like with a D, maybe you have found that you have been more emotional with a D, and so maybe you guys are at odds a little bit more than what you were. Maybe with an I, maybe you've disciplined them in public and you've wondered what's gone wrong. So there's little things that you can do differently with each one of these groups to get to a better relationship and more success. I want to thank you again for joining us, and we hope that this video was helpful. You can also find more videos like these, a listing of events and educational programming, and much more at sbtdc.uark.edu, or you can also email us at sbdc@uark.edu. You can also see the QR code right there for more information. We also post valuable content on social media, so please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Again, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope to see you soon.